This is Tavis Smiley, and I'm delighted to have you along with us in this hour, our final hour of today's program. In this hour, two conversations on the B side of this hour. Award-winning children's book author Ty Allen Jackson joins us for a conversation about the importance of a representation in literacy for black children and just the overall importance of black literacy for black children. And I look forward to that conversation now that school is back in session. No better time for a conversation about black youth and literacy. We commenced this hour, though, in conversation with our resident physician, Dr. Robert Drummond, who is back to provide some insights into some of the factors contributing to this resurgence of COVID-19. Say it ain't so, and to offer, I hope, some advice on safeguarding ourselves and our loved ones, even as this COVID-19 thing continues disproportionately to impact people who look like you and me. I digress on that for the moment. Dr. Robert Drummond, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me back.
It's good to have you back on the program. So we've all been seeing and reading about this, and for that matter, some of us know people who have contracted, come down with COVID-19 in recent days. Indeed, the First Lady, Jill Biden, it was announced, I guess, 36 hours ago, has contracted once again COVID-19, unless something happened while I was on the air, have been on the air. The president, we were told, does not have COVID-19, but the First Lady, in fact, does, and this is not her first time getting it. So it's back. Dr. Drummond, what say you, sir?
I say that it never left.
Somehow I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Listen, I've been steadfast in my, kind of following this and understanding of what's going on. As I've mentioned, I think a few times on the show here, SARS-CoV-2 virus and COVID-19 are here to stay. It's going to continue to come in waves. It is a new coronavirus that is here to stay and hopefully becomes just another cold or another bad cold. But it's not going anywhere, and it's going to keep making its ebbs and flows that will not necessarily correlate with winter.
Yeah.
That's the thing that differentiates SARS-CoV-2 from other upper respiratory viruses is it doesn't really care about the winter. It's around all the time and will just keep making its presence known.
Yep. How do we wrap our brains around that unique difference? I hear the point you're making. It is different than the flu, than pneumonia. How do we process that distinct reality?
Well, I think, the biggest thing that I try to do when I talk to patients and when I talk to groups of staff, et cetera, is to get them to understand, take a deep breath and say, hey, two things. As you've heard me say multiple times, the sky is not falling. Mm-hmm. But the second thing I say is this is the new normal. And so these types of viruses, they come, they happen, they usually will come and they kind of die out. This one continue to mutate and morph into a form that will allow it to have low mortality, have very high contagiousness, I guess you would say, and we call it a R0. Mm-hmm. It can spread very easily, doesn't cause a whole lot of damage, and that's how it survives. And so what I want everyone to really wrap their heads around is the fact that this is the new norm. The virus isn't going anywhere, but at some point we've got to start looking at it like another upper respiratory virus and accept it as another upper respiratory virus. Mm-hmm. In order to get back to some semblance of normal society.
I take your point that what makes this different than a cold or the flu is that it's not confined principally to the winter months. And yet, as we enter the fall season, various indicators such as COVID hospitalizations, fatalities, and wastewater data are all on the rise. So I put that out there to ask, while it's not confined to winter, how much worse does it portend to be when it hits us in the winter, if that makes sense?
No, it does make sense. I'll tell you, the thing about what we're seeing right now is it's twofold. One, so the new variants that are out, so the main two variants, EG5 and BA286, have a number of mutations that exist from the previous variant last summer, XBB.1.5. Right now, the newest variant, BA286, has about 30 mutations compared to XBB.1.5. So you add these new mutations in the spike protein with just the waning immunity that naturally happens over time, and that's kind of why we're seeing this right now. As to your question of how much worse is it going to get during the winter, I think what you are going to have is now we saw that last winter, we're going to see that again this winter. Other viruses have found a way to live with SARS-CoV-2. If you note, back in 3 years ago, no other viruses were around. The flu was almost completely vanished. It was almost all SARS-CoV-2 because as it competed for real estate, i.e. our lungs, our upper respiratory system, it was out-competing with all of those other viruses. Now, it's found a way to have a nice symbiotic relationship with those other viruses. What does that mean? It means we're going to have a rough winter. There's going to be flu. There's going to be upper respiratory viruses like RSV, and there's going to be SARS-CoV-2. And I think that's what we're going to feel when we feel the brunt of this during the winter.
Wow. When we come forward, I want to get to that point he just raised a moment ago, as he termed it, our waning immunity, the waning immunity of the public to the vaccines to the virus. We have all kinds of vaccines now, as it were. But there is a waning immunity. That's a scary term. We'll get him to unpack that when we come forward with Dr. Robert Drummond on Tavis Smiley.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Escalade IQ. This the intro to the all-electric Cadillac, perfected like Zoom. And on a full charge, you get 450 miles without the stop. Haiku. This is what I do. Daddy fat intellect since '92. Linked all the way back, panoramic roof. Come with 24-inch rim standard. Ooh, why? Shout it, don't kill him. Cadillac diamond in the back, cold chillin'. And when I'm on attack, on the track is no ceiling. Sky's the limit. You hear me? You hear me? Straight drop, no parachutes. Lay lines like a longitude and latitude. Deal it, beloved, clearly we're hustling. Bussin', truckin'. Cadillac, Cadillac.
For more on the Escalade IQ, visit Cadillac.com.
Available late 2024. GM estimate 450-mile range on a full charge based on development testing and/or analytical projection. Consistent with SCHA 1634 revision 2017 MCT. Range subject to change prior to production. Annual rates may vary based on service factors, including ambience temperature, terrain, battery age, and condition loading, and how you use and maintain your vehicle.
Cookie wants to be a professional wrestler.
I'm Cookie Serratos and I'm 11 years old.
She also wants to win all the medals. That's why Cookie and her family make every day count, squeezing out her best with Go-Go Squeeze.
Okay, Cookie, let's break for a Go-Go Squeeze.
Go-Go Squeeze Fruit on the Go pouches are a nutritious snack made from 100% fruit with no sugar added.
Go, Cookie!
Because when you nurture your kids, you squeeze out the best in them. Squeeze out the best with Go-Go Squeeze. Not a low-calorie food. Products range from 11 to 13 grams of sugar and 60 to 70 calories per serving.
21 days of beauty. 21 days with daily beauty steals of up to 50% off. 21 days of Slay. 21 days of Yay. 21 days of Are You Kidding Me right now? Beauty's biggest event is on now till September 16th at Ulta Beauty. Discover irresistible deals on must-have brands like IT Cosmetics and Fenty Beauty by Rihanna. Plus, new launches from Pat McGrath Labs. Shop in-store, online, or pick up today. Ulta Beauty. The possibilities are beautiful. Conditions apply.
Let's be real. Mopping is a hassle. You have to fill the bucket, pushing a wet, heavy mop around, then cleaning the mop when you're done so it doesn't grow bacteria. A hassle on top of a hassle. Try Swiffer WetJet. With Swiffer WetJet, you start with a fresh pad and cleaning solution every time. And when you're done, you just toss the pad. Swiffer WetJet, the faster, easier, cleaner way to clean your floors.
Venture X from Capital One is the travel card for people always asking,
Where next?
You earn 10x miles on hotels and rental cars, and 5x miles on flights booked through Capital One Travel, and 2x miles on everything else you buy with Venture X. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges. The Venture X card from Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Made fresh daily in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
I didn't like that phrase, Dr. Drummond, waning immunity. Talk to me, please.
Well, I don't want to scare everyone with saying waning immunity. Let me clarify that.
Mm-hmm.
Our immune system is complex. It's complex and it's contained of what we call B cells, T cells, helper T cells, cytotoxic T cells, but also you have antibodies. So the antibodies' jobs are like circulating police officers, and their job is to kind of go around, do surveillance, and see, does it see something foreign? If it sees something foreign, it attaches to it, starts to clump around it, and then other immune systems say, hey, look at those police officers attacking that one guy. Let's go help, okay? What happens in waning immunity is that the B cells are still there, the T cells are still there, but over time, when those police officers or the antibodies, when they're circulating around and they don't see anything, they're like, all right, let's go on break. And they go on break, and they may go on vacation, and you start seeing those circulating antibody levels drop down. Well, those circulating antibodies are what's really responsible for that initial kind of slowing of the virus from replicating. So if the virus can get slowed and basically surrounded by these antibodies and it can't replicate, then that's how you can get infected with the virus but not get sick. So when we say waning immunity, we're really talking about these B cells. We're really talking about these antibodies. These antibodies will start to just kind of reduce over time. They drop down. On my Instagram page, I have a beautiful diagram showing this over time. And that happens with either natural immunity or immunity after infection, as well as with immunity after vaccination. Either way, those antibody levels drop. So when you get exposed to the virus, the body kind of has to play catch up and revving those antibodies up again before it can neutralize those viruses. The faster you rev those antibodies up, the faster you can neutralize the virus, and the lesser the extent of the infection that you're going to have.
Speaking of vaccines, what's new on the vaccination front?
So the CDC has announced there is a new vaccine that's been released. That vaccine is really based largely on the XBB.1.5 that was circulating last summer. And so the jury is actually still out on saying how well is that vaccine going to protect us against EG5 and BA.286 that's floating around right now. What I tell everyone is that any immunity is better than no immunity. Right now, most of us have immunity from either previous infection or vaccination or both. So that's good. Anything that we can do to rev up those circulating antibodies, right, to help neutralize that virus, is going to be a good thing. Even if they don't bind to it perfectly, having a lot of them is helpful. And so that's why even a booster of the original vaccine, even a booster of the combination vaccine that they created last year, any of those is going to rev up those circulating antibodies and help neutralize that virus. Even if it isn't perfect, it's still better than having a lower level of antibodies. And so that's the reason that I really say, hey, if you're immunocompromised, if you're high risk, you should really consider getting this new booster or the vaccine sooner rather than later.
I'm thinking of all those persons listening right now. Let me back up. All those persons, I'm not talking about black folk, listening right now, who are I can hear and see some in my own family, kind of thumbing their nose at you, Dr. Drummond, and me, saying the following: see, I'm still here. I didn't get that vaccine. I didn't get that booster. I don't trust it. It's not necessary. Y'all Negroes are tripping, and I didn't get it, and I'm still here. And to that, Dr. Drummond, you say what?
I'll be honest with you. I have family members, and I've been doing this for years. I have family members that didn't get the vaccine until they got infected, and they got a bad case of COVID-19. And I literally asked them, why didn't you get it earlier? You hear me on the news. You hear me on Tavis Smiley. You've heard me talking about this on my nighttime fireside chat for years. And their honest answer was, just didn't trust it. And so there are going to be people that feel that way, and I understand it. And as much education as we do, they may never get around that. What I will say is this. No virus has ever been, I don't want to say eliminated, but neutralized without the combination of both vaccine and natural immunity. I've always been a big proponent of we need to recognize natural immunity. We need to recognize that immunity after infection and understand the role that it plays in neutralizing a virus like this. And so it is always going to be the combination of vaccination and immunity after infection. There are 100% a lot of people that got this virus. Many of them didn't even know they had it. Many of them did very, very, very well. And that's to the tune of what? 98.3%. There's also 1.7% of people that got it that died. Not hospitalization, they died. And so you're basically saying, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to go with my immunity. That, again, most of us have not been treating our bodies well. We don't eat right. We don't exercise. We don't have great immune systems. And you're saying, I'm going to take that risk with my immune system and see this virus whenever I see it, without that vaccination, and you can take that risk. And what we tell everyone is you've got a 1.7% chance of dying, 98.3% chance of being okay. And that's just the reality of it. I don't try to butter it up, make it seem better or worse. Those are the numbers. And as you know, I just follow the data.
Yeah. Let me say something that may be a little hardcore. This is straight no chaser. So at least I warned you. I look at things sometimes on the news. Speaking of your comment about being on the news and your family hearing and seeing you, they should have known better. They got a resident physician in their own family. But I look at certain news stories at times and I say, how did somebody die in that? It ain't like you didn't know it was coming. And I'm talking now about hurricanes and other things that we are warned about. This radio show rather, is heard across the station, across the nation. I can't talk. Try it again, Tavis. This radio program is heard across the nation on a variety of stations, but we're flagshipped here in Los Angeles. And in LA, we have these things every now and then called earthquakes. Now, we don't always know when an earthquake is going to hit, but a hurricane, you watch it on television, you know it's coming your way. How did you die in the hurricane? And I can give other examples of things that make no sense to me. You know it was coming. They told you it was coming. They told you what to do, and you died anyway. I don't quite get that. I raised that to ask, and you see where I'm going. With all these indicators we're looking at right now, an increase in hospitalizations, wastewater data on the rise, people are still dying. In 2023, people are still dying from COVID-19. All life has value. All lives are precious, and yet some people are still stuck on stupid. That's what I don't get. It's like there should be no reason for people just to be dying randomly in 2023 from COVID-19. But that's just me. I ain't got to have a good bedside manner, Dr. Drummond, because I'm not a physician. So you can respond in a much kinder, gentler way, perhaps.
Right. Well, I always try to have empathy when it comes to individuals that did not want to get vaccinated. I listen to them. I understand their point. And what I will say is it's a combination of things. For many, it's willful neglect. For many, it's a bit of arrogance in terms of this can't happen to me. For a lot of people, it's the nature of SARS-CoV-2 itself. Remember, the thing that made this virus so different and so weird and so wonky and so hard to control is that what we call the heterogeneous expressivity. What do I mean by that? There's some people that get it and they don't even know they have it. They don't even have COVID-19. They have SARS-CoV-2 infection. Because remember, COVID-19 is having the virus plus having symptoms. So they never got COVID-19. They just got infected. And then there's some individuals that get a little bit of a cold, some who get really sick, some who get hospitalized, and some who die. And there's so many people who know other people who say, I got it, I wasn't that sick, I think it's just all hoopla. I think it's all made up. I think it's exaggerated. Not made up, but I think they feel it's exaggerated, and it's just not that bad. And it's very hard to get around that. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of people will prefer to believe the easier way. Like, hey, if I can believe this, I'm going to believe that it's not that bad. I'm just going to go with that because I don't want to really deal with the possible reality that this is as bad as everyone says it is. So it's a lot of things that go into it. I have always tried to practice empathy. I've always tried to listen to patients, do my best to educate. But at the end of the day, it is called informed consent. My job is to educate, not denigrate. My job is to make sure they have all the facts and then let them make the decision for themselves. And you are 100% right, Brother Tavis. There were people who on their deathbed in the hospital, we saw it over and over, said, man, I should have got that vaccine.
Speaking of I should have got that vaccine, I don't mean to make you political, but you'll take my point. We are in a race for the White House, and again, not to get too deep in the weeds, but one of the persons running against Joe Biden for the Democratic nomination, as you know, is a guy named Robert Kennedy Jr. I've known Mr. Kennedy for some years now. We've had a number of candidates on our program, and we're working on getting Robert Kennedy in studio to talk to him about why he's running against Joe Biden for the Democratic Party nomination. That said, Robert Kennedy gets taken to task all the time, and as this campaign heats up, he'll get taken to task more for his commentary. He and I have had many conversations over the years about his thoughts about vaccines writ large. And so it's not just black folk who don't trust this particular vaccine. There are people who just don't trust vaccines, period. Again, not to make you political, Bobby Kennedy, Robert Kennedy Jr. will respond to those questions himself. But broadly speaking, in 2023, you say what about the conversation that we're having about vaccines writ large?
Well, it's unfortunate. I feel that we've had this, I guess you would say, misinformation out there as it relates to vaccines. Those of us that are in biomedical research and that understand the history of them, understand the history of viruses and vaccines, understand the significant benefit that they have had in numerous viruses. Mm-hmm. And we understand the complexity that goes behind trying to make a vaccine. And in understanding all of that, all of the data, all the real data, the good data, continuously shows that there is no link between vaccines and autism. It's just not there. Now, it doesn't mean that vaccines are perfect. It doesn't mean you can't get sick from a vaccine. You absolutely can. But what we're always doing is we're comparing how sick can you get, what are the possibilities of you getting this particular virus without the vaccine or getting this particular virus with the vaccine. We basically have vaccines against hepatitis A. Mm-hmm. People don't have to know what it's like to go through liver failure because we have hepatitis A vaccine. We have hepatitis B vaccines, right? Individuals would feel differently, I think, if they were exposed to that virus and then they had to make a choice, right? Because just like, in the situation with pox, it's very interesting. We went through, people forget now, a year and a half ago, we were dealing with we were dealing with this monkeypox, mm-hmm. right? And people saw what it looked like. It wasn't like maybe I could get sick or maybe I'll get a runny nose. I don't want those giant blistery boils all over my skin. And a lot of those same individuals who have been anti-vaccine forever were like, I want that vaccine. Mm-hmm. I don't want monkeypox. Mm-hmm. So it's a weird dynamic when people can actually see something. It's tangible. It isn't like some weird medical jargon. And then how their opinion changes when they're exposed to that kind of in-your-face visualization.
Yep. Let me come to this as we move toward wrapping this conversation. We've been talking with Dr. Robert Drummond, our resident physician, about this increase, this resurgence, if you will, of COVID-19. And I could have started our conversation here, and let me close with this, though. You made it clear that we got to get used to this as the new normal. COVID-19 is here. It's here to stay, as you said repeatedly, and we got to get used to this. That said, in this particular moment, just because I'm curious, do we have any knowledge as to why the virus is, I won't say making a comeback, because you said it never left. Now you sound like LL Cool J. Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. So you said the virus never left. But do we have any understanding of why it's resurging at this moment?
Well, yeah, and I think the biggest thing is the two things that I mentioned earlier. It's a combination of both of those two. It's the natural over time, specifically 6 to 9 months, you really get your circulating antibodies towards this virus have shown to just completely drop down for a lot of people. They really, really, really reduce. And then the second thing is the mutations that have happened that allow it to just evade and start infecting people again. So we already know that it already has a very high R naught, right? Mm-hmm. How infectious is this? It's almost as infectious as the measles, right? Way more infectious than the flu, way more infectious than other cold viruses. So it's already always out there jumping around trying to infect people and cause sickness so that it can spread to other individuals.
Yeah.
The higher our immunity levels, the more we're going to keep it at bay, the less what we call susceptible victims that are out there in society. But once more and more people continue to have their immune system drop down a little bit in terms of those circulating antibodies, there are more susceptible hosts, and it makes it easier to just jump around and spread. And that's what that's what we see, and we're going to continue seeing that, I would say, for the near future.
Got about 45 seconds left in conversation. We had your business partner on not too long ago, talking about this innovative work you all are doing in hair transplant surgery for African Americans in particular. How's the business coming?
The business is coming along extraordinary. I mean, we are revving up. We're expanding already. We're building an entire new area downstairs from our current location. We are at 150 South Rodeo Drive, right in the smack hard dab center of Beverly Hills, Los Angeles, California. offering everything as it relates to hair restoration and hair transplants for men, for women. Men are getting their beards back. Men are getting their mustaches and their goatees. Women who have been suffering from what we call traction alopecia for years due to braids are now getting their swag back. Everybody come see us, 150 South Rodeo Drive, Beverly Hills, California, Crown Hair Institute.
Crown Hair Institute is the name of that program. Dr. Drummond, good to have you back on as always, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley. Ranked number 45 on the Heavy 100 list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Hate crimes in Texas hit an all-time high last year, but one city is bucking the trend. San Antonio reported a 33% drop in such incidents, that according to a new report.
Even with the decline, it's still among the highest over the last 15 years or so.
Brian Levin at the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism says that San Antonio had the biggest dip in hate crime numbers amongst the nation's 10 largest cities. Several celebrities are making an appearance at African-American singer Beyonce's Renaissance Tour, including Diana Ross. During Bey's Monday night performance in Inglewood, California, Ross surprised her on stage to sing happy birthday to her. While on stage, the singer mentioned that Beyonce sang happy birthday to her on her 75th birthday. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Traffic hazard reported now in Glendora on the 210 West at Grand Avenue. A stalled out big rig blocking the number 2 lane from the left, and traffic is slow from Lone Hill Avenue. In Elysian Park, traffic's heavy still on that 110 southbound drive, Figueroa down to 3rd, 4th Street, and the 110 South is jammed up in South LA, Exposition Boulevard to Florence Avenue. North 110 jammed up from the 105 to the 10.
Right now at Lowe's, buy one, get one 50% off on select interior and exterior paints and exterior stains via Lowe's gift card rebate. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 9/6. More terms and restrictions apply. See Lowe's.com/rebates for details. While supplies last.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A major upset in the U.S. Open tennis tournament. Unseeded Ben Shelton, a 20-year-old brother from Atlanta, took out Francis Tiafoe in straight sets in the quarterfinals. Tiafoe is ranked 10th in the world and was the number 6 seed. Tuesday's match was the first time 2 African Americans met in the U.S. Open quarterfinals. Shelton moves on to Friday's semifinals. He'll face Novak Djokovic of Serbia. The first AP Top 25 college football rankings are out. 2-0 USC is number 6. Colorado checks in at number 22. First time for Colorado in the top 25 since 2020. The Lakers added some size to their bench. They signed 6'10 veteran Christian Wood to a 2-year deal. Wood averaged 16 points last season with Dallas. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Dominique DePrima for KBLA Talk 1580. Are you worried about your credit score? Well, look, you can rebuild it. There are lots of factors that go into determining your credit score, but one of the most effective ways to improve your score is to consistently pay your bills on time, over time. If you're forgetful about payments like me, try automating your bill payments. That way all your creditors get paid on time and you'll have freed yourself of trying to remember. Whatever your financial goals, U.S. Bank Access Commitment Initiatives can help support you in reaching them. Access your financial goals at usbank.com/access. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hey, this is Zoe Williams, the voice of reason from KBLA Talk 1580. Listen, if you're in the market for the best prices and the fastest delivery for custom-made roller shade, LA Custom Blinds is the place to be. Schedule a free estimate and they will come to your house, measure your windows, and bring a variety of fabrics to choose from. And then come back and install it all for free. The best part is that their factory is located right here in downtown Los Angeles, so they make the shades really fast. All you got to do is go to lacustomblinds.com and schedule your free in-home estimate right now. Tell them Zoe Williams sent you.
Ew, gotta get rid of this old Backstreet Boys t-shirt.
Tell me why.
Because it stinks, boys.
Tell me why.
I've washed it so many times, but the odor won't come out.
Tell me why.
No, you tell me why I can't get rid of this odor.
Have you tried New Downy Rinse and Refresh? It doesn't just cover up odors, it helps remove them.
Wow, it worked, guys.
Yeah.
Downy Rinse and Refresh removes more odor in one wash than the leading value detergent in 3 washes. Find it wherever you buy laundry products.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
I'm Tavis Smiley, and our guest in this half hour is Ty Allen Jackson, award-winning children's book author, literacy advocate, and we're going to have a brief conversation here, a spirited but brief conversation about the importance of representation in literacy for black children, for that matter, the vital importance of literacy for black children, particularly now that school is back in session. Ty Allen Jackson, how are you, sir?
Sir, I am exceptionally well, and I hope you are as well.
I am exceptionally well, and if I complained, I'd be an ingrate. So I'm just delighted to be here, delighted to have you on for this conversation. Let me start with this, a bit out of the box, but nonetheless, you can handle it. If I were to do a survey of black children across the country and ask them to name their favorite music artist, their favorite athlete, their favorite actor, I suspect I'd get a plethora of responses. But if I were to ask these same black children who their favorite author is, I suspect it might be crickets. If I'm right about that, how do you read that?
Unfortunately, you couldn't be more right. I think we, and I'm even proud to say, we are a pop-driven culture. Mm-hmm. We love our entertainment. You know, we love our sports. We love our music. We love our entertainment. We are entertainment. With that being said, somehow or another, the world of literature has missed us, or maybe we've missed it. And yes, children, I think, for the most part, would struggle to name an author, and certainly to name an author of color. And I think there are a number of reasons for this. I think it could go back as far as history's sake, that 150 years ago it was illegal for people of color, for black people to read in this country. Or you can even focus more today, where the majority of books that are printed today don't feature children of color, and when they do, they're not contemporary, but contemporary or positive. But I want to put a lot of the onus on us, and thinking that as a culture, we don't emphasize books. As a culture, we don't emphasize reading the way we should, and especially in the world of pop culture, we really don't do a fantastic job of lifting up and promoting and accentuating our authors and illustrators of color.
Is that because of the white supremacy inside of us?
Ooh, man, I think that's I don't want to always place the blame at white supremacy. I obviously, you know, it proverbially has its knee on the neck of us, but I think we have to hold ourselves accountable, because I think part of the problem is also black authorship itself. Black authors, in my opinion, need to do a better job of not just promoting historical or cultural or historical content. It's got to be fun. When we were kids growing up, we read for fun. We read for joy. We read for entertainment. And especially now when kids have to compete with social media and video games and movies, if these are the options that they have, and then we're going to put a book in front of them to talk about slavery or segregation or Jim Crow, that's not going to fly. I mean, and any kid who's going to choose between video games and reading about Jackie Robinson, as much as I love Jackie Robinson, he's going to lose. So authors themselves need to step up the game and write about characters and stories that are fun and that are vibrant and that are also speak to multiple voices. I mean, it can't just be a Black voice. I think when we find characters that children can find inside of all of them, regardless of their race, gender, or whatever, I think we have a better job of being successful.
I take your point, Ty, about Black complicity, put another way, Black accountability.
Yes,
I don't push back on that point, and yet I do think that we cannot poo-poo. There is something to this argument that when you read literature and you don't see yourself represented in it, to your point about it being fun, it ain't no fun if I keep reading stuff and I can't see myself in the story.
No, that's without question. And I think both things can be true. I think that we can hold ourselves accountable for creating these images and also be able to create images that kids see themselves and just feel really, really good about. And I'm really proud to be able to do work that kids of all colors can see themselves. And not only have fun in reading these characters, but also simultaneously learn life lessons and things that are going to be really relevant in our lives for years to come.
Yep. We've indicted a number of persons and institutions already in this conversation. What we've not gotten to is indicting the industry. You've raised the level of expectation for Black authors. No pushback there. You've raised the issue of our own accountability as Black people. No pushback there. And what the culture needs to do to advance the issue of books and reading and literature. No argument from me on any of those fronts. Where you will get an argument if you want one is on the industry. We all recall after the murder of George Floyd, Black people in every industry, in every lane of human endeavor, Black folk were calling out industries after the murder of George Floyd for the ways in which they have, proverbially had their knees on our necks in these very spaces that we occupy. You'll recall very well that a whole lot of Black folk in the industry of books and publishing had their say as well. And the industry promised it was going to do better. So I ain't mad at your indictment on anybody and everybody else, but what about the industry itself?
No, the industry itself, as much as anyone, has to be substantially more accountable. There's only about 8% of children's books that are published today feature a Black character as the main character. And very often those books are dealt in, history or culture and not just joy and fun. So I think primarily the industry in which puts the books out has to do a better job of showcasing Black authors, showcasing Black authors and illustrators and stories, not just Black stories, but at least stories including Black people. There's also some systems or some circumstances in which there are white voices telling Black stories. Mm-hmm. And that again is a huge problem. When you see books that feature a child of color and then you go to the back and there's a white person telling that story, that's a problem. I mean, especially when there's such a deficit of authors and illustrators of color in the world of literature. And then when you finally find a book of color that the person who actually wrote and illustrated the book doesn't represent the voice that they're showcasing. It is an absolute problem. And like anything else, we have to do as a culture a better job of holding accountable these authors, these publishers, so that they represent our voices and our faces more.
I want to interrogate that last point, Ty, when we come forward. And my mind immediately went to the debate I've had more times than I can count in my career about whether or not it's a good thing or bad thing that Black babies are adopted by folk who happen not to be Black. And you know the argument. There are a lot of black folk who are purist on this. Like, you know what? If you're a black based about our culture, they can't teach you about the royalty that you descend from. So there are a lot of black folk who don't want to hear it. If you're a black baby, you ought to be adopted by a black family. Well, that ain't the way it works. A lot of black babies go unadopted. Black babies go more unadopted than anybody else. And so if they can find love and a family that cares for them and comforts them, what's wrong with that? That's what my mind went to. You made the point about the fact that if these black books, children's books are written by white authors, that's a problem. Is it really? Let's talk about it when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Seeking the truth. Speaking the truth. This is the Tavis Smiley Show.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
The Los Angeles Urban League helps African American and others in underserved communities achieve true social parity, economic self-reliance, and civil rights. For over 100 years, Los Angeles Urban League has ensured our communities have access to careers with living wages, opportunities to start and grow businesses, and clear pathways to personal and professional growth. Programs like BizCamp, Construction Career Academy, Bob Business Ready, and B-Warp. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Program are examples of the ongoing events designed to make our centennial mission to rebuild Black Wall Street right here in LA a reality. To sign up for our newsletter or to support the Los Angeles Urban League with your time, talent, and donations, visit laul.org. That's laul.org. The Los Angeles Urban League is a proud sponsor of Urban Family Focus, Saturdays at 7 a.m. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Extended Family Outreach Ministry presents Praise Fest 2023, Worthy to be Praised Conference and Concert, September 23rd, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Redondo Beach Performing Arts Center. Morning worship, keynote address, and conference featuring women in creative arts ministry and leadership sharing our stories, His glory, giving all praise, honor, thanksgiving, and glory to God. Don't miss the afternoon Stand Up and Sing Praises concert with the Katinas, gospel singer Babby Mason, Three Daughters, and Kevin Click. That's Praise Fest 2023, Worthy to be Praised Conference and Concert, September 23rd, Redondo Beach Performing Arts Center. For more information and tickets, go to PraiseFest 2023 at Eventbrite.com. Plus, for the next 48 hours, use promo code KBLA48 to get your tickets free. You do not want to miss this day of praise. That's PraiseFest 2023 at Eventbrite.com.
Sounds different, huh? This is Tavis Smiley.
So, Ty Allen Jackson, is it really a problem that white authors are writing books that are geared toward black children? You heard my example, comparative example of black babies adopted by white families, whether or not that's really a problem. And I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but unpack that for me as to whether or not you think it really is a problem as long as these children are seeing themselves in books.
It is a problem, and it's a problem for two reasons. And the first one is one of the ones you touched on earlier, and that's representation.
Mm-hmm.
It is the same way that our kids are idolizing LeBron James and Beyonce and Will Smith. They're not idolizing the authors because they're not seeing them. And when they do see them, if they don't look like them, then that's not representation.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough to have the characters itself be to showcase and for them to see themselves in the characters. They need to see them in the voices of the people who wrote them, because they're more than likely to aspire to want to be the author than to be the character. And we also want to showcase our kids that they can be authors. When they think, so many of them think that the road to success for them looks like LeBron James, Beyonce, and Will Smith, not knowing that the opportunities for them to grow as an author, an illustrator, or somewhere in the world of publishing lies within them as well. But if they don't see them that way, then that's a problem. And it's also a problem in the world of money. Like we're compensating white authors for black voices instead of compensating black authors for black voices. So in those two instances, and I get your analogy of the adoption, in which I'm all for whomever loves can receive that love by all means, regardless of what you look like. Love is love. But I think in this instance, I think it really is important for representation to matter, and also to be and compensation matters. With that being said, I also want to say I think it's really essential, and I don't want to contradict what I just said, that we all just kind of have to be able to support one another. The problem is that so many authors, or so much of the world of publishing is white, that you can't, and such a deficit is black, that it's unfair to give some black voices to white faces. It's just not a fair thing to do.
Yep. Everybody is opining about this these days, but I've not heard Ty Allen Jackson opine about it, particularly given that you are an award-winning children's book author and literacy advocate. What say you about this this nonsense of banning certain books?
It is just another form of delegation and suppression by the other side to keep us quiet and keep us passive. We all know that knowledge is power, and that you get knowledge from books. And so to suppress books and not allow them to be shared is just another form of suppression. And also it's due to the lack of accountability, because knowledge is power, and because with the internet and with the abundance of literature and information that's out there, things are being exposed in the world that does not put the history of this country in a good light. And because of that, I feel like powers that be are holding back that information, i.e. banning books, and using that as a way to be able to show that, whites are still in power, that white America is alive and thriving, and that they're still in control about what it is that they'll allow to be put out there in the world as far as information is concerned. And it's really unfortunate. Books are the most powerful entity for our learning, and all books, regardless of subject matter, should be free for anyone to read whenever it is that they choose. And so obviously I'm against banning books, all books, and not even books I agree with. I'm sure there's many books out there that I disagree with, but the accessibility of them should be welcome to anyone.
In our remaining moments with Ty Allen Jackson, I want to probe his thoughts on how we help children today fall in love with reading. How does one, help a black youth to find joy in reading? We all know the benefits of that. If you can get a kid to fall in love with reading early on, we know the benefits of that over a lifetime. But how do we get these kids to find joy in reading, to fall in love with reading? That for Ty when we come forward on Tavis.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when he switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. KBLA Talk 1580 is inviting you to join us on Saturday, September 16th, 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. for our very first economic empowerment event for the community. This event is free and it's powered by Caltrans. We're doing this in association with Rambo House, and here's Rambo to tell you more.
Contracts. I'm going to say it again for all of us small business owners out there. Contracts. Rambo House, KBLA, Tavis, me. Oh my God, this is going to be massive. I truly thank Caltrans for giving us the opportunity to focus on contracts. Listen, that's what it's all about to be a small business in LA. That's how we hire our own. That's how we expand our community is contracts. KBLA1580.com is for you to have a seat at our contracts-focused event. Contract Ready does it again. We had over 900 last time. So you guys know how exciting this is. And if you just think that you want to get into contracts and you're close to it, bring your friends out for September 16th at the Marriott Hotel. Listen, you know where to register. KBLA1580.com. Come see me. I can't wait to see you. Let's do it, Tavis.
So be sure to go to KBLA1580.com for all the details. We'll see you Saturday, September 16th.
Extreme heat increases your risk of heat illness and death. Warning signs of heat exhaustion include muscle cramps, headache, and nausea. Signs of heat stroke include a fever of 103 or higher, confusion, and loss of consciousness. Protect yourself by limiting time spent outdoors, staying hydrated, and staying cool in air-conditioned spaces. Learn how to stay safer from extreme heat at heatreadyca.com. Brought to you by the state of California.
Ready to re-examine your assumptions and expand your inventory of ideas? More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
Our remaining moments now with Ty Allen Jackson. We've been talking, in case you just tuned in, about literacy, specifically literacy for black children now that school is back in session. So, Ty, you do this all the time. You are, again, an award-winning children's book author yourself. What say you in this moment of American history, this moment in our journey as black folk in America, about how we help kids, I don't want to say trick them, how we help them fall in love with reading and find a joy in reading?
Yeah, first of all, I love the question, and I think it's not as difficult as you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's three primary ways, and the first is I want to paraphrase the great James Baldwin, who once said that children never listen to their parents, but they never fail to emulate them. And so if you want your child to read, then they need to see their primary educator, that's you, the parent, reading as well. They will prioritize what they see you do. So if you want your child to be a reader, you need to be a reader as well. And it's very possible to make time to read together or have a reading time. So that's one thing. Your children need to see you reading. Secondly, we need to align with pop culture. Pop culture is going nowhere. So if your kids love Beyonce, go get a book about Beyonce. If they love Jay-Z, if they love engineering, if they love cars, if they love ballerinas, there's more than an abundance of books out there in the world that aligns with the things that your kids love on social media. If you put a book in front of them that's their favorite topic, they're going to read it. So find out what their hot button is and get a book for them and make that time. The other thing, and I can't believe how simple this is, but how effective it is that very often parents will come to me and say, my kids hate reading. And my question to them is, when was the last time you took your child to a bookstore? And more than 90% of them say they never have. So if you want your kids to read and to love and embrace reading, take them to the bookstore. It is such a powerful, magical place, from the smells to the vibrancy and the array of books there. Go to the bookstore, put $10, $20 in their hands, and let them run. And guarantee you they're going to find a book, and having ownership of their own book that they chose that speaks to them, I guarantee you will be something that sets off a spark and inspiring them to embrace the joy and power of reading.
To your point, it is a simple answer, but it's a powerful response. I never thought about it quite that way. That's why you're the expert, and I'm just a lowly talk show host. I'm just asking questions.
You're so much more than that, sir.
I'm asking questions, you hitting them out the park. And thank you for doing that for the last 30 minutes. His name is Ty Allen Jackson. He is an award-winning children's book author himself, literacy advocate, motivational speaker, as you can tell. And I'm delighted in this conversation about the importance of representation in literacy for our black babies. Ty, all the best to you, sir. Thanks for your time. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, sir.
Good to have you on this program. There you have it. Another 3 hours, another day in the life of the Tavis Smiley program. And I thank you for being with us for all of it, or whatever part you could join us for today. Back here tomorrow, Lord willing, to do it all over again. Another 3 hours tomorrow. And I thank you for tuning in today. Until next time, and as always, keep the faith.